Welcome to the Last Beer Show, episode 27. We're joined today by Randall Dolan of Leprechauno Meadery. We're finally talking meads. We're really excited about it. We're glad to have you here. Let's get into it. Jason.
Hey, Wayne. How the heck are you?
I am rolling.
Yeah?
Nothing?
Nothing.
Tombstone?
I got nothing. Rolling in the deep.
I'm good, bro.
Good.
I'm good, sir.
Good to see you.
And you, sir.
Happy we're coming to you on a Friday.
Friday this time.
We
So
are
what have you gotten
recording on a
into?
Friday. I have...
Come on, give the people what they want. Right into the meat.
Yeah, let's get into meat. Last week, I got into a new collaboration from the Nappy Roots guys and Arches Brewing, which was a Kentucky milk stout those guys did. If you don't know it, the Nappy Roots guys are actually opening a brewery called Atlantucky, which is hard to say, and it's a mixture of Atlanta and Kentucky, which is where they're from,
right.
And it's Atlantucky. And they've been doing some really cool collabs with breweries in the area.
The Arches one is interesting because they're really more of a lager house.
They are more of a lager
which
house.
is, a unique voice in the marketplace.
True.
They
are. They kind of remind me of that brewery in Austin, the brewery that does the Hefeweizens.
Yeah.
What is that brewery?
In Austin that does Hefeweizens?
Texas.
Yeah, Austin, Texas.
Probably like 10 of them.
Yeah, Live Oak.
Live Oak.
Yeah, Live Oak has this amazing Hefeweizen. Actually, I think it's probably the best.
Hefeweizen's an ale.
It's the best
It's not a
Hefeweizen
lager.
in the country, if you ask me.
What?
Live Oak's Hefeweizen is
What?
the best Hefeweizen in the
Is
country.
it a legit Hefe?
It is legit,
Does
and
it
they're one
taste-
of and they are an old school brewery, very similar to Arches Brewing. They do these old styles, old
Yeah.
German styles that you just.
I like what Arches does, man. All this stuff's good. It's clean.
It is.
It's on point with each style.
Yep,
And
they did
they're
a
picking some unique styles, a little more underground.
Yep.
So good for them.
They
So
did
cool.
a Kentucky bourbon barrel aged milk stout.
What's
and
the
then-
one, the collab that Nappy Roots dudes did with Creature?
Monday Night Brewing.
Monday night. That
They
was
did a collaboration with them called Humdinger, which was another interesting beer. And then they also did one with Against the Grain in Kentucky called I think it's called Watermelon Chicken
Grits.
and Grits.
That's right.
That's what it is. It's in a pink can.
If
And,
I'm not mistaken, that
Against
was
the
one of
Grain's
names
a
of their
really
albums
good
back in
brewery.
the
It
day,
was
right?
one of the names. That's right.
Their Citra As Down is one of my favorites.
Yeah, Against the Grain.
It's a good IPA.
That's a good name, too.
I can't get past the brown note can, the graphics on that brown note
The
can,
brown note?
which are the
It's unappealing.
those skid marks on the back.
bone.
Somebody's
Luke,
gonna
man.
make a gray hazy IPA, like put some like oats or something in it, and just call it dishwater.
Yeah,
just watch.
exactly.
Somebody's gonna
It's
do
bong
it.
Put some
water.
glitter in there. That glitter beer is a thing now. So
That is the thing now.
I'm fully expecting Sweetwater to do a version of their G13 strain called Bong Water.
Oh yeah.
They're already more than halfway there. So
Cool.
we can do that. And then I got into some opened up a 4-year-old Westy 12 the other night and drank it with some friends. It was as good and delicious as those Westy 12s are. And then I got into one of those Prairie Dogs. If you're not familiar with the Prairie Dogs, Prairie Dog is that series that you do by basically picking out the ingredients, and then you buy the barrel. Which is about $3,500, and you divvy up the bottle amongst lots of people. And so I was a part of a group buy here. This one had Nutella, vanilla, marshmallows, and I think that was it.
Damn grip.
Super
Pastry.
That's
sweet.
some expensive beer.
Sweet on sweet.
Honestly,
I know.
it was super
It's
sweet.
not sweet enough. Put Nutella
It was
in.
probably the sweetest beer I've ever had, honestly.
Really?
It really was. And I've had some Angry Chair beers. It was sweeter
Those
than
are
any of the
pastry.
Angry Chair beers I've
Those are
had.
pastry stouts.
Yep. What about you?
Cool. Well, I've gotten into local favorite Morning Smack that hit the market again.
That's 3 Taverns.
So really incredibly good. D9, the Confectioner series.
Trash Panda.
No, that one was crazy. The pomegranate gelato cream ale they did is wicked.
Sounds good.
It's like a pastry IPA, basically.
The cream ale is
Which
something
is a
that
thing
most
now.
breweries aren't really messing with, man. But I mean, it's something it's a good base for.
You could do a lot of fruited things on
Yeah.
top of it. Another one I had in that same vein from Wild Leap, way down in LaGrange, Georgia.
Yep.
They are the Truck Chaser, the Creamsicle Double IPA.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's real nice.
Yeah, it'd be fun to do that side by side of them, of the one that Wild Leap does and the one that Cherry Street does.
Yeah, it's real good.
Those orange creamsicles are fun. But yeah, those are some great ones that you got into.
Indeed. So we have a guest, and before we mention our amazing guest, we have to let everybody know that we're recording in a brewery.
Recording, yep.
And apologize for the background noise.
Yep, we're recording at Pontoon Brewing.
I'm sure there will be bottles and a gigantic Jenga, and there's cornhole and all kinds of things going on out there, and people having a good time. So apologize for the background
So
noise.
so if you want to play along, when the Jenga board falls, you can all yell Jenga with us.
And special thanks for Pontoon Brewery for letting us use their cool office.
Thank you so much, Sean, and Pontoon Brewing.
Yes, big time. So our guest,
Yeah, our guest.
Jason, do the honors.
Yeah, so our guests for this evening are Randall and Haley Dolan of Leprechauno Meadery. So welcome, guys.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Guys and gals, should
Thanks
say.
for thinking of us.
Yeah. So
I could have given you a microphone.
for a while, we've been wanting to talk about mead because mead has become kind of a fast growing segment in the I'll call it craft beverage market. Mead has become a very fast growing part of that audience. I think
It's
that,
really popped up, man. I've seen it in a lot of bottle shops lately, especially
Yeah.
like bigger fruit ones and more experimental.
Yeah,
good to see.
I think that the rise of these fruited meads has really helped kind of push the popularity of them on the whole. Because I know that for me, my history in meads prior to say my first Shrams was like just some basic mead with nothing added to it.
Some
And I remember
Chaucers or some, what's the other one? Redstone or something like that?
something like that. I remember it just being so overly sweet that it just didn't like. There was nothing appealing in
Right.
it. And then I had one with cherries, and I thought the cherries, the sourness and the acidity of the cherries, more balanced out the sweetness of it. And I've been drinking them ever since.
Coming from a Fredericksdal guy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, huge Fredericksdal guy. So we've been wanting to talk about mead, and Randall.
We've been wanting to, but we don't feel qualified.
We don't-
So when we got
I don't
it,
know
when
how
he
qualified
said,
I am
when he
either,
said,
so-
"Well, I know somebody who's making mead. We
Yeah.
should have him on." I'm like,
Well, I
"Well,
mean,
yes, we've been
I've
talking
watched
about it."
Pawn Stars.
Oh, man.
I don't know a lot about mead, but I know a guy, and so we called Rick from Pawn Stars,
boy.
and he had our guy was Randall and Haley.
I
Over
think we
here.
mentioned it like a year ago. We should do a show on mead. I'm like, sure,
Yeah,
not qualified.
yeah, and then here we are. So let's talk a little bit about mead and a little bit about the history of mead. We don't have to go into great detail, but talk a little bit about the history of mead and kind of where we are today.
Gosh, I mean, it's the oldest fermented beverage. Honey, water, and yeast. It's really all the components you need to make it. I guess it had its ups and downs throughout history, and obviously everyone still thinks Vikings. That's when you think of mead, you think Vikings. That's kind of the stereotype. Fast forward to pretty much the last 10 years, and probably last 20 years, I guess, when Ken Schramm, made his book, The Complete Mead Maker, and now, is basically telling you how to make mead, as a home brewer. And it's a bit dated at this point as far as the equipment and stuff in there, but it's still, if you're going to learn how to make mead, that's kind of like the Bible for mead making. And, since then, he's made such great meads that everyone else is kind of inspired, and that's kind of what, I guess, kind of got the ball rolling for this reformation of American mead and whatnot. And I don't know what the statistic was, but I think it's like every day there's how many, 4 or 5 meaderies or 6 meaderies, I guess. Well, notwithstanding the the government shutdown, but there's up to 6 meaderies a day that are applying for licensing in the United States. So
Wow.
yeah, it's getting
quite a pitch.
It's getting big. Yeah, it's really starting to go. But the thing with mead, I feel like it's still kind of maybe 10 years behind beer, maybe kind of as far as the way that, even though it's starting to gain some steam, you go back to maybe 2009, 2010 for beer,
Right.
and you had a lot of breweries, but they were kind of all making similar things, and maybe that's kind of what mead is right now. Is there's really only a handful of the melomels are obviously everything that's fruited.
So
is, like,
for those who
super
don't know,
popular.
what is a melomel?
It's just a fruited mead, essentially, just honey water
Right.
yeast with some kind of fruit.
So they're doing what craft breweries did a decade ago in that establishing flagships.
I see the parallel as far as that, where there's a ton of room to grow and to explore and to kind of come up with some new ideas. There's very few meaderies out there that are barrel aging, and that's kind of what I wanted to get into.
Cool.
Obviously, just like anyone else, you can't just have barrel aged stuff unless you just want a barrel house and then just sell, like rare barrel or Casey type of deal. But
Right.
that was kind of, the idea was to come up with a core of some, delicious things that are obviously marketable, like the melomels and whatnot, and then kind of on, with our little Milmigo society that we have, just coming up with some ideas for different barrels, different store pick barrels for bourbon, rye, and that type of stuff, and putting different adjuncts, coming up with different ideas that are inspired by mixed drinks or other beers that everyone loves that
Right.
put these adjuncts in there and see what comes out. But
It's
sorry, that
similar to
was a
what
little
happens in
plugging
the
on
craft beer,
myself,
like
but-
in the sour game, right? Like these Berliner Weisses and these kettle sours that
Yeah.
are just kind of experimenting the same way. It's
that
kind of
was
like
only the last 6 years where
same
like
type of vehicle,
people weren't even like when Westbrook came up with, they brought back Goza.
right?
Like nobody knew what the heck it was, and no one else was doing it. It was an old German style that I guess they just kind of found it, said, "Hey, we like this. Let's do our own spin on it." And then, I mean, for at least 2 years, it was the hottest ticket. As soon as it landed, it was
Right.
sold out.
Yeah.
And it's a salty, sour son of a gun, and it's kind of just ever since then, everyone's doing different kettle sours, fruited Berliners,
Yeah.
fruited Gozas, stuff like that.
Everybody who's anybody's doing it.
Well, there's kind of a challenge with mead versus craft beer in that there are definitely fewer variables because you don't have hops. And hops being such a huge variable, I think it definitely limits the amount of options and the amount of ways that you can kind of differentiate yourself in the market. But I will say that yeast could be something really interesting.
Well, there's no malts either.
Yeah, there's no
Because
malts either.
it'd
Yeah,
be a
that's true. I
braggot,
didn't think
and
about that.
in this state, at least in Georgia,
Yep.
even though a braggot is a style of mead,
Yep.
it is only allowed to be made at a brewery. So it's a mead that can only be made at a brewery because it does have malt.
Very interesting,
Right?
isn't it? So it doesn't have malt and it doesn't have hops, which are two big
I
variables.
bet there are meads that have hops.
Sure, yeah.
Dry hop meads.
Yep.
Now, what about yeast? Has anybody really done anything with with playing with different yeast for meads, and how's that work out?
Usually what it is you got to go with some kind of a wine yeast, a wine or a champagne yeast, because you need a hearty yeast to eat up all that sugar. There's so much sugar from the honey that you need something pretty hearty, and you need to actually feed your, I guess, your must. That's what they call it. The honey and water mixture, you got to feed it nutrients in order for the yeast to kind of eat up, because they get lazy. There's only a few that are like super hardy in there. The rest of them have a tendency to die out quickly. So if you want to have an ABV, where you want to reach 10+%, you're going to have to keep feeding it. And if you just throw, any old ale yeast, it may not actually ferment out You may just have a bunch of sugar water. You might have a little bit of alcohol, but it's going to be primarily honey. And I don't know if you'd even taste any flavors from the yeast. There is something I thought of, and I haven't done it yet. I don't know why, but I was thinking about doing a pitching twice type of deal, like do a Brett Trois for an initial pitch, either that or doing like a Berliner style braggot. That's something that I was considering, maybe doing a collab with a local brewery, but and then pitching the wine yeast to finish eating up the rest of that sugar.
Right.
So you have several different flavors from several different yeasts. But
That sounds amazing.
It might be down the road,
Right.
once we get our full head of steam.
Yeah. Are there any when it comes to honey, which bees are challenged in different regions of the country, is there regionality or seasonality that makes for better or worse?
I don't know specifically that. That's another thing. Having an apiary is like a job in itself, man. I mean, like,
Yeah. My
because
father-in-law has a bunch of beehives.
I mean, but is he retired or is he does he live at
He's got no job.
Well, there you go.
He's old.
So that's his his passion is his bees then, amongst other things. I'm
I
sure,
get like 6 gigantic jars of honey. Like
hook
every
it up,
time
man.
he
What are you
comes to
doing? You're
visit.
holding that on me.
Yeah.
Every time he comes up, I brought you honey.
That's cool, man. No, I mean from what I've experienced, we've had several different wildflowers, and there's always you pick up different flavors. Some of them are kind of more like woodsy. Some of them are silky smooth and just kind of sweet marshmallowy.
Right.
And then you have all your single varietals, which I guess, and again, I don't own an apiary or anything like that, so. I'm not entirely sure how you can control the bees that they only go to. I guess it's a convenience thing. It's like, okay, well, there's all this clover. I'm just going to go to this clover instead of going to those trees,
You can lease hives, can't you? Like, you can lease them. These companies
sure
in
you
Louisiana lease out hives that almond farms in California, basically, they truck them out there, and then they truck them back when the season's over.
I don't know why they wouldn't just leave them out there. Is it like Northern California? They think
I
they're
don't think
freeze
they can
or
survive
something?
after a certain period of time.
They will freeze. I mean, they got to stay warm.
Yeah,
But
Louisiana's great for bees. They got a lot of bugs there, actually. I don't know if you've driven through, but they have. I used to wonder why they had so many car washes, and then I was like driving through. I was like, holy cow! Now I know it's like your windshield's covered in bugs.
right on. Sell some windshield wipers, some rain
Anyway,
eggs.
sidetrack. How did you? Your name is interesting. How did you come up with that?
Leprechauno. That's I am Irish and Mexican. I know I look very Irish and very not Mexican, but so it's just an amalgamation of it's Spanglish, man, is what it is. So
that makes sense.
Yes, and then my wife Haley, she is by trade a graphic designer, and she came up with the logo. We picked out a custom font, and ever since then, just kind of collabed on different stuff. And her branding is very unique and very true to Leprechauno. As soon as you see our label, you're like, that's very memorable.
Yeah.
Even as something as plain as this one here, that's just our limited collection one.
It's cool to have a name and a brand that's so wonderfully personal.
It was really encouraging. First off, that she was like, "Hey, I really like this mead, and it seems like several other people like it too. Maybe we should, consider going down this road and making a meadery." So, we at first it was just kind of messing around with some homebrew labels and having fun with it, and then it just kind of kept snowballing, man. And now we are in queue still for our federal license for.
Yeah, so you have an application in
since October, yeah. So the government shutdown really kind of messed things up, but
this is
it's not just us.
Stake Your Pistachio.
Stake Your Pain was the first piment that I made. And a piment is a mead that is, instead of water, you add grape juice. It could be any varietal of grape juice. This one in particular is Concord, but it's instead of honey, water, and yeast, it's honey, grape juice, and the yeast. And that was originally I made the first batch. It's Concord grape juice. I believe this one's Georgia wildflower honey, and then I aged it on Sandeman 10-year port oak chips. And this one in particular, I made a tincture out of some pistachios. So you get more pistachio on the nose and you do the flavor. But
Definitely a lot of grape in the nose.
oh yeah, it's organic Concord grape juice.
Woo!
It's gonna be sweet.
Smells sweet. What's ABV on this?
It's in the teens.
We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Don't.
Let me tell you, that one bottle
It is
will-
Trying
delicious
it.
ABV.
Oh my gosh, it's like
It
Kool-Aid or something.
is like Kool-Aid.
That one
Yeah, you wanna
bottle
be
will
careful,
grab you
it's
by the
crushable.
boo-boo. Oh yeah, it's crushable, but it'll crush you
Yeah,
before
you
you
do
know
not.
it, man. I'm speaking from experience.
It's really good.
It's really
I will
good.
drink more of this for sure.
Do it, do it, do
Thank you.
it.
Yeah,
April,
so,
April can drive you home.
So, what are your challenges been in opening a meadery around here?
Well, I mean, the number one thing for everyone is money. It's just Haley and myself. We are Leprechauno Meadery, so it's one of the main issues was are we going to be able to buy a building or lease a building and then having to get all the equipment and what size are we going to end up brewing and all that stuff. And as it turns out, through the Atlanta beer community, which is a group on Facebook, we were discovered by Trey Sinclair and Steve Anderson at Dry County Brewing in Kennesaw. And we met up with them and kind of hit it off. And before we knew it, they were offering us the opportunity to use their facility to make our own mead there.
That's amazing.
And just basically, work a deal out for, hey, you guys are going to use our facility and, it's still your brand and your mead, but we, get to make it on a basically a 10-barrel system instead of just having to work on like a 1-barrel and try to break out these nano batches. So
That's pretty different.
oh, dude, it's totally unique because they're the only place that I know of at least that's they already have a distilling license and they just came out with their first bottled. It's an old fashioned. It's a pre-mixed old fashioned. So it's a brewery that is also distillery, and now they're going to have a meadery inside under the same roof. So
Right.
Plenty of options for everyone that shows up if they want, whatever
really,
they want.
They could serve anybody.
Sure.
That's a pretty cool idea to use your extra capacity by trying to stretch variety.
Yeah, one of the other local breweries is actually starting to do cold brew, iced coffee. They can brew it in their tanks as it is with no difference in equipment. So they're brewing it in their tanks and then they can it. They have a nitro line so they can nitro run it.
I still want to buy cold brew in a can.
It's so
It's
good.
not-
It's not bad, man.
It's really good.
I don't
actually.
doubt it.
It's
I'm
really
going to make
good.
some this weekend, tomorrow.
Speaking of trends, I know you guys are, I don't know if you guys touched on this trend or not. I know we were talking about this earlier, but as far as like everything used to be like cans no good, bottles good, and now it's back to like cans for everything.
Everything's
like,
cans.
It's cans all of a sudden again, like in the last 2 years maybe.
Yeah.
And I get that for like IPAs and stuff that you're selling in bulk cases at a time. But now everything is cans. So like we've even considered
Cans are cheaper too, right?
I mean, if you have a canning line, if
Yeah.
you have to get like a mobile canning unit to come over and
drive out.
that can be a pain in the butt. But
Yeah.
I mean, we've even considered canned mead, down the road.
Yep.
So I don't know if that's going to be welcomed. It's weird, man, how there's these subcultures that sometimes, they are resistant to something out of the norm as far
Right.
as, something as simple as packaging,
It used to be such a point of differentiation for craft beer because all the macros were canning constantly. And they knew they were canning for a good reason,
Sure.
right? It's cheaper to recycle. At scale, it's cheaper. And no light, because light and
Takes
beer
up- doesn't
do
take as
not
much
go on
space,
together.
you know,
right?
stacking those cases up at the gas
Yeah.
stations,
It's more durable.
Yeah.
So
It's more easily recyclable.
that's true.
That's very true.
Yeah. But yeah, all of a sudden we're back to cans.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting. I did see, was it Charm City?
Yep.
Charm City is doing mead in cans. You
Really?
can buy that on store shelves around around these parts at least.
Really?
Yep, in cans.
And their stuff's at a pretty approachable price point as far as trying to get new folks to try mead for the first time. You know, if you're buying an $8 to $10, either like a little 4-pack or a little 500 ml, that's a lot more of a risk, I guess, as far as your money as a new consumer versus a. And I don't mean to say it's not something that people would spend, but a $40 $750 swing top, it's kind of hard to sell somebody on something like that. If they've never.
They have to love it and want to share it.
Right.
You're not going to.
But if you're like, oh, mead, that's interesting. You're like, oh my God, it's $40.
I will say that is one of the worst parts about my newfound mead addiction is that crap is incredibly expensive.
It can be very
honey's
the good
expensive.
stuff is
honey's
honey is
tremendously
incredibly it is expensive for the right reasons, but it is delicious. I know that those so Superstition is I would say the most well-known meaderies are probably Superstition, Garrigeist, and Tampa, and then Schramm's. And those bottles are, anywhere from $30 to $40 a bottle.
Sometimes more than that. If you're getting some of these barrel-aged ones, are up to $60 sometimes. Right. And Heart of Darkness, I mean, that's one that it's the best mead I've ever had, but it's hard to really justify $120 for a 187 milliliter bottle.
I mean, people pay that for wine.
Yeah, I guess if it is
all the time.
If it's the the bougiest mead out there, I guess it's it's kind of they can price out whatever they want, and as long as it sells, and it's gonna sell.
Jason and I have an ongoing soapbox tirade, tantrum, whatever you call it, where I don't feel like beer consumers specifically are comfortable paying the kind of prices that breweries would need them to pay for them to pay their employees well and offer them good benefits and create an environment that is sustainable. So having narrow margins and everyone expecting them to be able to sell everything they make for $10.
Yeah.
It's not
feasible.
It's not feasible.
Yeah.
Like it's not sustainable. Like
right.
You can't have this quadruple dry hop, pounder cans.
Yep.
There's a reason that 4-pack's $20. It should probably be $35.
Right, and then we complain when a brewery doesn't pay their employees very much.
Yeah, and so beer drinkers want it both ways. So I'm not hating on mead by charging what they need to cover their expenses. Like wine does it.
Yep. And you can turn around, even a triple dry hopped, triple IPA in probably less than a month, from, raw materials to can versus a mead you're looking at, sometimes 3 months, sometimes longer.
Yeah.
So you're talking about just the amount of time that it took to make it. So, you already have your ingredients that are, however expensive. Pretty much everything but this one. I've put vanilla in, and I don't use an extract. I use real vanilla. So you're talking about the honey and the vanilla are two of the most expensive things you could possibly put into something. So,
and you're going to barrel age.
Yep.
That's even more time. Time is money. Square footage is
You're
money. Those barrels are just going to sit there.
That's it.
Taking up space. It costs you real money.
I'm a gambling man, I guess. I don't know, man. So, it's...
Dude, where are you going to get barrels? Whose barrels do you aspire to?
Well, the cool thing is that we have a lot of liquor store managers, owners in the Atlanta area that are really cool with the beer community, and I've managed to make friends with these guys over the years. And now that they know that we're starting this meadery, they might have a store pick barrel that is not something that's already been claimed.
Right.
Something like a Knob Creek Rye or a Four Roses store pick, something like that.
Right.
And those are the type of barrels that I would like to procure. Not only because I know it's not just like some blended stuff that was thrown into a barrel and then you don't really know what came out of it. Well, actually, that is exactly what it is. I do want to know what came out of it. So the store pick, I can get a bottle and try it and say, okay, these are the notes that I'm getting from this whiskey, this bourbon, this rye, whatever other spirit, and have an idea of what it might contribute to the mead. If it's got a kind of a more of a spicy, type of a char to it, like a rye, versus kind of a more of a buttery sweet, light oakiness of a bourbon,
Right.
you know, adding that to the mead, and if it's picking up those characteristics, I'm not, you know, at a capacity where I'm going to be blending barrels just yet. So
Right.
it's okay if I get a single barrel from one of these guys, you know, a couple times a year or something like
Right.
that. So.
So where can people find you? You said Tri-County?
Yeah, hopefully, you know, like I said, we're still waiting, but Dry County there in Kennesaw, it's right off of Chastain Road, next to Kennesaw State University.
Right. If they want to link up with you?
Yeah, we
online?
have Instagram, we have a website, we have Facebook, we have Untap. Everything is on Untap too. So it's Leprechaun with an O, Leprechauno Meadery. And, you know, if you got any questions, you know, we respond to emails. You can
Right.
look us up on Facebook, like I said, Instagram, all that stuff. So
Chat you up.
Yep.
Awesome.
Any
Man, thank
questions
you.
or any concerns or anything like that, any contributions, you know, whatever.
Right. Thanks
I'm
for
down.
sharing, man. Thanks for...
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Man, so one more segment, Jason.
That's good.
You got the intro music?
That's good. We waited
Oh,
on
Randall's
that. We
ready for
waited
this
on that
segment.
segment for a good year.
He's ready for this segment, next segment.
Beep, 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 beep. In the news.
In the news. That's our intro music.
That's cool.
Just so you know. He's going to patent.
Yeah, we recorded that live
It's a telegram coming by.
with the Dungeon family here in Atlanta.
What do you want to share on news, Jason?
So this is a really interesting thing. So many of you who saw the Super Bowl saw the commercial from Budweiser, not in talking about the quality of their beers, but in talking about the quality of their beers minus corn syrup.
It was like a lot of money spent on adjunct differentiation.
Right, exactly. And the sad thing is that it's a giant waste of their money too, because none of their audience actually gives a crap about corn syrup. Never once has a member of their audience said, "You know what? I like this beer. I wish it didn't have corn syrup in it."
Yeah.
So it's
agree.
such a weird place to plant your flag for Budweiser that they're just like, okay, we can't really compete on quality, so let's figure something out. I don't know, like corn syrup.
They bought other brands to compete on quality.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what they bought Kusal and Wicked Weed for.
I feel like maybe part of the reason for that is because there's been that movement for the FDA to put the label with all the ingredients.
Yeah,
and
they're
going to
have to label their beers.
Maybe that's why they were like, well, if we have to slap a label on there, maybe we, you know, should go ahead and just try to make ours look like it's not as inferior to.
Well, I don't know
Other
that, but
macro.
even then, I don't know that they'll be able to include corn syrup as an ingredient because there's no corn syrup when it's done.
It's true.
So, and that's their point. That Miller Coors, their letter was like, "Hey, the final result doesn't have any corn syrup in it because the yeast
You're not
eat it,
shipping
and
corn
yeast-
syrup.
Sugar to yeast.
Sugar is sugar to yeast. They don't care where it comes from. It could, and for some of those folks, it's rice, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter what that sugar is or what you call
Yeah,
it.
grain
So
sugars.
it is such a really interesting thing. So here in the Atlanta area, they're actually placing billboards that say, something to the effect of, 100% less corn syrup than our competitors than Coors Light. They're
Yeah.
actually calling them out, as they have been since the Super Bowl. And in my Twitter timeline today, I saw this tweet, which was from Coors Light, which simply, and it includes a video, and it says, "Today, in bars, we are raising a Coors Light to the farmers who work hard to put food on our plates and beer in our glasses. We are proud of the ingredients in our beer and the farmers who grow them. Join us in raising a cold one and post your pics. Hashtag toast to farmers."
Woo, America.
Said raising a colon? Cold one.
A
Yeah,
cold one.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
well,
heard you
your
say
colon too, actually.
Raise your colon.
So
That would not
So
be a
Miller
good
Coors
look.
has come on the offensive and said, "Hey, listen," and I actually believe that Miller Coors delivered a truckload of beer to the Corn Growers Conference, which was last week. They actually delivered a bunch of Coors Light to the Corn Growers Conference to say, "Hey, we appreciate the work that you do in growing corn.
Yeah.
That gives us corn syrup that we use."
That was
to
a
make our
good
beer."
advertising volley.
It's such a weird thing, though, back and forth, because, again, at the end of the day, the consumer doesn't give a rat's butt about it.
Yeah.
The rat's butt.
You know who cares? Miller Coors and Budweiser. That's it. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong, Walter.
Well, what else do they have to? What
Just
else
an
do they
a-hole.
have to? What else do they have to volley on? No one's going. You know what? This actually genuinely tastes 10 times better.
Yes, this Bud Light is a very good year.
It's got notes of
notes of-
hay and
It does
hops
make you
of
wonder.
Denali.
If someone's sitting there like, oh
Tastes
man,
like
this
fresh
does taste
shoe.
like rice. Now that I'm
Now that you
reading it,
mention it, it does taste a little bit
you've
like
been exposed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nah.
I'm loving the Motueri hops in this Bud Light.
The what?
Motueri.
Wow.
That's a
Beechwood
new-
aging.
That's a
Oh
New
man,
Zealand
Beechwood
hop. Beechwood
aging.
aging. Yeah. I long for the day when I can tell what
Good
is
for them.
Beechwood aged and what is
you
not.
can get some
Good for
Beechwood
them.
Traeger pellets and
Yeah, exactly.
smoke your meats
Yeah.
and some Beechwood.
There you go.
They actually have Jack Daniels pellets.
That's cool.
But it's such a weird thing, and that's what's going on in the news today.
I saw a billboard. Speaking of billboards, I saw a billboard along the highway on the way to work that had University of Georgia football player, like arms up, like championship pose, and it was a wine ad. And I was like, first of all, that kid's probably not even drinking age, and the school's not really endorsing this, are they? Like wine and one of their football players?
That is interesting.
It was. I just kind of looked at it, and I looked second time. I just, you turn your head kind of like a dog. You don't really understand. You just kind of cock it a little. Like, wait a second, what are they doing there? There's no way that's okay. Is it not just me?
Well, they don't. They
Show up
don't
at all the tailgates now. You're going to see that wine.
It's like a box.
it's interesting because they don't allow any
Box
alcohol in the football stadium during games.
even funnier.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Even funnier. So
They don't sell it, I should say. There is lots of it in the
Sure.
stadium, but they don't sell it.
right.
So that is an interesting thing for sure.
Yeah. It blew my mind a little bit. I was like, I was kind of like past it and still thinking about it. Like, did that really just happen? Did I see that?
That is
That is
crazy.
odd.
Seems wrong. So, any other news?
I presume you guys already talked about the wicked weed thing that's popping up there in downtown.
We
Oh,
did
it's a
not-
pop-up shop that
We're
they're
not
putting
talking
in.
about it.
Oh, is
but-
it here to stay?
They're putting it in. I don't think so.
Wicked Weed out of Asheville, also owned by Anheuser-Busch, which we mentioned.
They're gonna
is-
do well there.
Is doing a pop-up. This actually, the more I think about it, this is actually really interesting news. They're doing a pop-up in Atlanta on what is known in Atlanta as the Beltline, which used to be a railroad track that went around the city.
Yeah.
They took the railroad track up and made a biking and
Exercise loop,
yeah,
like
biking
a paved
and
trail
walking
type thing
loop
through
for
town.
you to walk your dog and bike around. And it's called the Beltline. And there are a lot of really interesting businesses on the Beltline. The New Realm guys are on the Beltline. They opened up a really crazy brewery there on the Beltline.
Former Stone Brewery.
But the interesting thing that was in the interview, because they did an interview with Good Beer Hunting, which we highly recommend that you go check out on Good Beer Hunting's website. They did an interview with one of the brothers who started Wicked Weed, and he mentioned that they were interested in bringing sour beers to the Beltline, to which Orpheus Brewing said, "Oh, really?
Oh, really? Because
well,
we've
we're
been
sure
doing that
glad
for
you're coming to do that because we've
decade."
been waiting on you. Although we have been doing sours on the Beltline for 4 years now."
They it's just a pop-up shop.
It
and
is a
nobody
pop-up
knows
shop.
how big it's going to be, and it's in
Or
a
how long it'll
gigantic
last.
flea market that is pretty cool. Probably doesn't get enough foot traffic, so it's a good idea for the flea market, right? Paris en Ponce to put that in.
It is.
And look, they're gonna. It's a great location. They're gonna absolutely kill it there.
So here's the rumors. The rumors are that, and I can see this. The rumors are that what he's doing is a little bit of not damage control, but there are a lot of really crazy Wicked Weed beers that are sitting on shelves around Atlanta that weren't sitting on shelves 2 years ago, like Red Angel, Black Angel, White Angel,
That's because
Dark Arts.
a lot of the bottle shops don't even carry them anymore.
Well, they stopped carrying them, but the bottle shop, we talked to Ritesh at Max's Bottle Shop.
Yeah.
He said that stuff is just sitting on shelves. And so knowing that Atlanta is Wicked Weed's largest market outside of Asheville, and knowing that so many of their beers are just sitting on shelves in the Atlanta market, it seems like there's a little bit of sort of damage control, sort of, hey, we need to build up some hype
they need
to sell these
to
beers.
expose themselves to non-beer heads.
Right.
Because
the non-beer heads are not buying it.
beer fans are not going to
That's
buy
right.
anything from
I
them
agree with that.
at all.
So that's the word on the street. The word on the street is
Word
that
on the street.
it's basically him coming to Atlanta and saying, hey, we need to sell some of this beer that we've been sending down to Atlanta that's sitting on shelves.
So you mentioned Good Beer Hunting. I also read something about them having a tie to InBev.
They don't have a
No,
tie.
not directly.
No?
We
They-
actually had them on. We
Yeah,
had
we
Michael
had them on,
Kaiser
and
on,
they
so
talked
he could
about
explain
this.
that.
Okay, all right.
And
They have a
Perhaps I
sponsorship
was
deal with
misinformed.
Diageo through
Okay.
Guinness that they're sponsoring a series. But they have those guys, and I say those guys, really it's Michael Kaiser, has two separate divisions. He has his Good Beer Hunting,
Okay.
and then they have a creative agency that they do work for breweries.
brewery labeling
and
and branding and events and
Right.
stuff like that.
Okay.
that's the place where that stuff is happening. They also partnered. They did a partnership with forget what magazine it was, but they did a partnership to create a magazine called October, which October is actually
That was just to start it up, though.
It's
They're
partially
not, they don't participate.
it's
in
partially
it.
funded by
ZX.
ZX Ventures, which is Anheuser-Busch.
Okay.
It's
But
owned-
Good
it's
Beer
their,
Hunting itself is not sponsored by
I got you.
by AB InBev. And they did talk about that on the show and cleared up some of that stuff. But it is a good question.
So that was a weird flex, but okay moment for.
It is. They get that a lot, and
I
I
got
can
you.
understand. But
I got you.
but those guys, one of their head editors, Austin Ray, lives here in Atlanta. Is a long time, very well respected writer in Atlanta. Works over at Mailchimp. Super great guy, and he
was on the episode too. We like to refer to him as a friend of the show.
yeah,
on.
Austie.
I don't know if that's true.
Oh,
or not,
Austie,
but-
that's
Oh,
what I call
Austie.
him. Yep. So
good
yeah,
folks.
that's what's going on. Wicked Weed is opening a pop up in Atlanta, and it'll be
Yay.
interesting to see how the
Wah,
folks react to it.
wah,
I will say that if you go to Austin, if you go to Asheville, I should say,
Asheville.
you could probably go to Wicked Weed's Brew Pub, and there's probably it's filled with
It's
people.
Oh, sure.
I
yeah.
promise it's packed.
So I imagine that the same type of people who would fill their Asheville Brew Pub will probably fill their pop up.
Yeah, no doubt they'll kill it, and good for them.
It's still kind of
Yep.
a bummer. I mean, we have several local, establishments that are closing that have been here for a long time, and they're just kind of coming on down here, and
That is the sentiment.
Yeah.
That is why you were seeing
They have different resources. It's
that's
not
why
the
you're
same
seeing
game.
brewery owners so vocal
Sure.
about it, like Jason from
Of course.
Orpheus. He basically said, "Hey, go home, go
I
back
mean,
to Asheville."
Lyric and Atalanta, when he launched those, gosh, like you said, 4 years
yeah,
ago.
it had to be 4 or 5 years
Oh, there's
ago.
more than that.
I mean, it was a long
5,
time
6
ago.
years
I remember
ago.
that was.
Yeah, so you gotta. It's a slap in the face to come into somebody's backyard and be like, "Hey, we're here to do this thing that
Right.
you happen to
He
have been
wouldn't
doing
be-
for 5 years."
it's
He
not
wouldn't
just
be
him,
pissed
I mean-
off if there was a brewery opening in that space organically.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
pissed off
Right.
because they're coming in with InBev money.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, precisely.
Well, it's not like they named it something else either. It's still,
It's not even that.
It's not. Yeah, it's not white label.
It's not even that they came in and said, "Hey, we just want to contribute to an already burgeoning craft beer market." They basically said, "Hey, we want to introduce sour beers to this area," and which is really
y'all
like
ignorant.
How
it's
pompous
kinda-
is
Y'all
that?
ignorant around
How
there.
pompous is that?
It's kind of silly to do that in an
It
area
is.
where you're not the king, right? And
Well.
so the feedback has been not positive, as you can imagine.
Good for them. I hope
Bless,
it works
as
out.
as we say in Georgia,
In the
bless their
South.
hearts.
Bless
No,
their
you-
hearts.
Bless their hearts.
All
Bless
right,
their hearts. All right.
I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Let's wrap it up.
And I'm in a brewery.
Yeah, we
and
are
I
in a
don't
brewery.
have any beer.
We're gonna drink some more
There's the
beer.
problem. Whee! She's trying to get me drunk on Shake Your Pistachio.
Yeah, steak your pistachio.
Steak?
Yeah, steak your pistachio.
Blew that.
So you can shake your pistachio. Just no one's going to see it.
So we didn't mention this,
It
but
is a
we should
radio
mention it
show.
before. We actually, the first beer that we opened up with, that we opened before we started was Creature Comforts
Thought it was
Fauxjolais.
good.
Fauxjolais is it's a blended ale that Blake Tires did It is black raspberries and black currants. It's the second runnings of a beer they did called River Ridge, and it's a really nice raspberry sourish.
It'll. I list the beverages
Yep.
in the show notes every episode.
Yeah, I know.
Everything we consume, what I drink while I'm editing, so you know how far off the rails it went.
Yep.
If it sounds
Tonight
like
hadn't
total
been that
shit,
bad,
I probably
actually.
had 3.
Yes.
All right, I'm done. Have a good night.
Have a good night. We'll see
Bye.
you guys
Thanks,
next
see you,
time.
buddy.
Appreciate you.
Bye. Thanks for coming
special
on.
thanks to
Randall and Haley.
having a good one.
Yeah.
Peace. Thank you for listening. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at The Last Beer Show. You can email us sip@lastbeershow.com. If there's anything you want us to touch on and discuss, we would be happy to. Go to the iTunes store, leave us a review or a rating. We would be eternally grateful. And thank you very much.